Yeah, I think this is clear. So actually, Aaron can see. Maybe
If I'm on the first step, is that okay?
yeah, it'd be better. Melissa, can you see me? Yes? And you can see my hand? Okay.
Shabbat Shalom. We're in the waterproof part of the Frank Lloyd Wright building. Yeah, no, we don't have to have kiddie pools here. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So we are very excited. Tonight is yet another in the series of Cantor. Agar brings music from multiple different influences to Friday nights and to Kabbalat Shabbat, and tonight we are bringing influences from the state of Israel. As we are still in the afterglow of Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, and I handed out some poetry from both it's by Yehuda Amichai and a poem about Israel for us to take a brief interlude to kind of think about Israel in poetry. So between song, poetry, and our open hearts, we will celebrate Shabbat and celebrate the state of Israel. So I believe that the opening will be a Shalom Aleichem, which will have it's the melody that we've been singing a bit of, but it's Nava Tehillah, which is the wonderful, wonderful group of musicians that are bringing the joy of Kabbalat Shabbat to not only Masorti Jews, but also secular Jews as well in Israel. So there's a lot of beautiful music coming from Nava Tehillah, and we'll start on page 13 of your Siddur with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Yasharim, Malachei Elyon, V'melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Boachem Lishalom, Malachei Yasharim.
Back a page and now continue with Yedid Nefesh, the love poetry between the Jewish people and the Holy One of Blessing. Actually, we're actually not turning back a page, we're turning ahead a page. I'm sorry, it says on my outline, page 12. It's page 14. And this beautiful love poem is a way in which we are get ready to welcome God's presence as we look forward to that, the coming of Shabbat as we would the coming of our beloved, whom we have been waiting all week to see. Page 14 of your prayer book.
הרחמן, ידיד הנפש אב הרחמן, משוך עבדך אל רצונך, משוך עבדך לה 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 אל רצונך, ירוץ עבדך כמו היער, ישתחווה לי 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 לה 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 אל רצונך, ירוץ עבדך כמו היער, ישתחווה לי 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 לה 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 לה
We're going to turn ahead now to page 21 in your prayer book as we continue with Lecha Dodi. Join with us on. Go ahead, Cantor, you introduce Lecha Dodi.
Oh, okay. This is going to be a melody you might not have heard before, unlike the previous two. And this is one by an Israeli group called Moshav. And they're a very interesting group. They combine sort of Ashkenazi and Mizrahi and Sephardi styles, and they turn it into this very Israeli-sounding kind of rock. So this melody, let's learn it first. So I'll sing and you repeat. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekabela. Let's try it together. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nekabela. Awesome. Now let's turn to the next part. It goes like this. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmiyanu el ha-meyuchad Hishmiyanu el ha-meyuchad. Let's try it together. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmiyanu el ha-meyuchad. That's it. Now you know the whole thing.
So we're going to do the first, second, and last verses on page 21, and then we'll rise for the final verse, page 22.
Adonai, alayich nigla. Lech Adodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat v'chabela. Lech Adodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat v'chabela. Yabinu smol tifrotzi, et Adonai taritzi. Al yadish ben parzi, v'nismeka v'nagila. Lech Adodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat v'chabela. Lech Adodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat v'chabela. Boi shalom materet bala, gam b'simcha ובצוחנה. תוך אמוני המסגונה, תוך ענה, ענה. לech Adodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat v'chabela. Lech Adodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat v'chabela. Lech Adodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat v'chabela.
Please be seated. That sounds like Israel. That was great. That was beautiful. All right, we're going to continue on page 23. Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. It is good to give thanks for the gift of Shabbat. Page 23 of your prayer book.
מזמור השיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור השיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
Before Kaddish, we're going to conclude with the ending of Psalm 93. Chazan, do you want to introduce this particular melody that you're doing about
Yes.
the crash of the sea, God? All of these Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat are about God's majesty in the created world, and yet God's voice is heard even above the crash of the sea. Mikolot Mayim Rabim.
So this one is written by Nava Tehila, the same group that wrote the first Shalom Aleichem, and it's not usually a phrase that we sing, to a melody or aloud. So it's nice to bring it out with this tune, and let's just learn it. It's rather simple. Okay, so I'll sing and you repeat. Mikolot Mayim Rabim,
Mikolot Mayim Rabim,
Adirim Mishbereyam. Great, let's try it together. Ready, and Mikolot Mayim Rabim, Adirim Mishbereyam. One more time. Mikolot Mayim Rabim, Adirim Mishbereyam. Great. Next part goes like this. Adir b'marom Adonai. Let's try it. Adir b'marom Adonai. One more time. Adir b'marom Adonai. Next part goes like this. Adir b'marom Adonai. Let's try it. Adir b'marom Adonai. One more time. Adir b'marom Adonai. That's the whole thing. Now we'll sing it all together. Mikolot Mayim Rabim, Adirim Mishbereyam. Mikolot Mayim Rabim, Adirim Mishbereyam. Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai. Mikolot Mayim Rabim, Adirim Mishbereyam. Mikolot Mayim Rabim, Adirim Mishbereyam. Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai. Mikolot Mayim Rabim, Adirim Mishbereyam. Mikolot Mayim Rabim, Adirim Mishbereyam. Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai, Adir b'marom Adonai.
We want to invite any of you who are in the process of mourning or observing yahrzeit to rise. Those of you who are at home, those of you who are here in the Sistered Sanctuary as we continue with Mourner's Kaddish, page 24. Looks like there may not be anyone in this room saying Kaddish, but we have many people watching, so we're going to say Kaddish in case someone at home is needing to say it. Page 24. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevorach v'olam almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal Shemei d'kudesha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tusht b'chata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma v'yimru
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru.
Amen.
So for those of you who arrived in the last little bit, we want to just welcome you and say Shabbat Shalom, and we're very grateful that we have these wonderful musicians who are bringing the sounds of the state of Israel to us on Kabbalat Shabbat, and we're grateful to Cantor Agar for initiating another musical experience for Kabbalat Shabbat. If you've been here over the course of the past several months, you will probably have known that there are probably about 10 different musical services that the Cantor has brought to us, and so the variety of experiences musically we are getting has been wonderful, and we really appreciate it. So this was meant to be a way of continuing the celebration of the State of Israel after Yom HaAtzmaut this last week. So some of you were able to, I didn't make enough copies, but there's a sheet with 2 poems. There's one that's from the poet laureate of the State of Israel, Yehuda Amichai. It's a meditation on time. And since we are in the period of the counting of the Omer, the period of the counting between Pesach and Shavuot, we are constantly aware of the passing of each day. We will count the Omer at the end of this service. And for those who don't have a copy of this poem, I'm going to read it out loud because there are people who are watching on the Zoom who don't have one either. This one is the Amichai poem, A Man Doesn't Have Time in His Life. A man doesn't have time in his life to have time for everything. He doesn't have seasons enough to have a season for every purpose. Ecclesiastes was wrong about that. A man needs to love and to hate at the same moment, to laugh and cry with the same eyes, with the same hands to throw stones and to gather them, to make love in war and war in love, and to hate and forgive and remember and forget, to arrange and confuse, to eat and to digest what history takes years and years to do. A man doesn't have time. When he loses, he seeks. When he finds, he forgets. When he forgets, he loves. When he loves, he begins to forget. And his soul is seasoned. His soul is very professional. Only his body remains forever an amateur. It tries and it misses, gets muddled, doesn't learn a thing, drunk and blind in its pleasures and its pains. He will die as figs die in autumn, shriveled and full of himself and sweet, the leaves growing dry on the ground, the bare branches pointing to the place where there's time for everything. So I wanted to invite you to turn the page over, if you have it, from a more contemplative, sober poem about the nature of what it means to be human and mortality to a poem that's more a celebration of Israel. A poem to Israel. The land of milk and honey, the land of falafel and pita, where lemon, sweet mango, and pomegranate trees overshadow the street, and new seasons overflow with olives, figs, dates, and artichokes. The land where truth and opinion are never withheld, where honesty and humor flow freely without a price or tax charge. The land that bears scars of pain and anguish, where fallen tears create a tide. But this is a warm home where millions have been saved. Each breath is a gift, and you are close family to a stranger. Littered streets, plastic cups and soda bottles thrown to the sun-scorched roads without a thought, even by those whose hearts beat Zionism and who would give their lives to protect all that is Israel. A fresh breeze in Jerusalem could tell 3,000 years of history, and so could the aged man in the shuk, hands filled with Shabbat candles and eyes brimming with wisdom and soul. The land where survival against affliction is not a question, and thriving is inclination. Maybe one day there will be peace without turmoil. Maybe. The land of Abraham, Isaac, David, and Jacob, the land that Moses never reached, a precious gem in the desert whose wonders cannot be fully expressed with words, a land beyond description where even a handful of earth is without silence. A land forever misunderstood, but where would we be without you? If I forget you, I will no longer write with a right hand. I will no longer love with the same heart, and my soul will forever be in a wandering, restless diaspora. Here we are together, under the white sun, being embraced by the warm desert breeze. It looks like there's a delivery from a truck. Interesting. So we now are taking a little moment out of Shabbat to notice that, and we'll come back in to Shabbat and hope that not only do we enjoy some of the music of Israel, but some of the poetry of Israel as well. Chazan, we're going to turn back to you and to the prayer book, and we invite people to rise if they are able. The Baruch Hu begins page 28. I invite you to be seated as we continue privately, page 28, Ma'ariv Aravim.
Baruch Umavir yom ila umavadil ben yom ve'ila Adonai tzvot shemo Elachai v'kayam Tamid yimloch aleinu leolam ba'ed Baruch atah Adonai Ha'mariv Aravim.
Once again, we have another melody from Moshav.
Yes, this is the same group as L'Chadudi, and this is another very Israeli-sounding rock piece. So let's also learn how to sing it. So I'll sing, and if you can repeat. Avat olam, avat olam. Next part. Beth Yisrael amchavta, Beth Yisrael amchavta. Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim, Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim. Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. The next part goes like this. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, Beshochveinu, Beshochveinu, Uvekumeinu nasiach bechukecha, Uvekumeinu nasiach bechukecha, Bechukecha. Let's put it together from Al ken. Ready. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochveinu uvekumeinu nasiach bechukecha bechukecha. And that's it. And then it just, those two melodies repeat with the rest of the words. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל עמך, תורה ומצוות ומשפט, אותנו לימדת. תהיה חיינו ויורך ימינו, יורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם בלילה, יומם בלילה. ואהבת אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל עמך, תורה ומצוות ומשפט, אותנו לימדת. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל עמך, תורה ומצוות ומשפט, אותנו לימדת. We're going to continue on page 30 with the Shema. Continue with Shema, page 30. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Melot Olam Va'ed. V'yavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובחומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. והיה אם שמות תשמעו מצוות. אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיכם לתת להם כימי השמיים על הארץ. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית, וריתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריכם, למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם.
Continuing now, page 32, Emet Ve'emunah.
זה כל זאת וכמה לילי, כן? ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם, משה בני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם. כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, תורת ההילות עושה הלב. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה, זה לי אנו ויאמרו אדוני מלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי נתן כל גלום יד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל.
We daven Hashkivenu, page 33.
השכיבנו לשלום מלכנו. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם, ופרוסנו שכל שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו כל מו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Join with us as we continue on page 34 of Vishamru.
This melody is by a famous popular Israeli artist today named Morin Ne'edar. She's a Persian Jewish singer, songwriter. She also called herself a paitanit because she sings old poetry, piyutim. And so this is a melody she wrote, and we're going to sing it to Vishamru. So let's also just quickly learn it. It's fairly simple. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael,
Shameru b'nei Yisrael,
et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת,
לעשות את השבת,
לדורותם ברית עולם.
לדורותם ברית עולם.
Let's try it together. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. That's it. That's the whole melody. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם.
ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש ושמרו בני ישראל אל השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם שמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית
To rise, we invite you to do so as we take time for the Chatzi Kaddish as a prelude to our own private reflections and prayer. The Amidah begins page 35 and continues through page 38.
יתקדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ביעלמה דברה קירותי ואמלק מלכותי בחייכון וביום אחד ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן ישמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי עמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה מן הכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה נחמתה נמירן ביעלמה ויאמרו אמן.
Those of you who are still praying, please continue to do so. Those of you who have concluded, feel free to be seated. We'll continue with Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom במרומה, כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ויאמרו
We're going to continue now with Kiddush on page 49. We invite you to rise if you are able to do so as the Chazan will lead us in Kiddush.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידש מצוותיו ורצה בנו בשבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים.
Amen. L'chaim. We'll invite you to remain standing. We're counting the Omer. The Omer, the great thing about counting the Omer is it gives you a chance to see how your mathematical brain works. So my mathematical brain works like this. The first night we counted the Omer was Saturday night, the second night of the Seder, right? Right? So Saturday was night 1. So the next Saturday is 1, 8, 15, 22, 29, right? Now, if you're counting on a Friday night, you're always counting, therefore, in multiples of 7, right? So we're concluding the 4th week of counting the Omer. We all know that we're not supposed to say the number until we count. 7, 14, 21. So, tonight, and counting the Omer really gets a chance to really exercise your math muscles. So we're going to say the bracha on the bottom of page 55 together, and then turn and count 7, 14, 21, you know what, for tonight, because we're ending 4 weeks. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Hayom shmona v'esrim yom, shehem arba'a shavuot omer. We mark tonight the beginning of the 28th day of the counting. That is 4 weeks, which means 3 weeks to go in our counting of the Omer. And we turn back to page 51. If you're able to remain standing, Aleinu continues.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגוי ארצות, ולא שרנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהן, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים
וכתוב ברתו אבידה היום ושעות על כן יקרא לך הכתוב בתורתך אדוני מלך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Those in the process of mourning or observing a yahrzeit, please remain standing either here or at home on the Zoom as we continue with Kaddish Atom, page 52. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv yimru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevorach li'olam almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yithalal, shemei dekudasha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma v'yimru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen.
Amen.
We ask God who brings peace and comfort on high to bring peace and comfort to all who are remembering loved ones. We're not going to give you a ton of announcements, although tomorrow, Ivan Mosquera Rodriguez is going to be called to the Torah for the first time as we celebrate. You know, the Midrash says that we were all at Sinai. And Yvonne is one of those people who, even though it just became official a couple of weeks ago, she was at Sinai for her entire life. And I had the privilege of working with her as we formalized the process of fully becoming part of the Jewish people. And what a wonderful, wonderful, we put it off for almost 2 years because of the pandemic. But Yvonne is one of those, you were at Sinai with us, and we can't wait to make it official tomorrow when you are called to the Torah. So we hope many of you will be here with us tomorrow as we celebrate with Daniel and Sarah. Everyone always thought that she was Jewish fully anyhow, that you all just assumed. So that's... That's right, and there's where's the dance party? That's right. So, so we're very much looking forward to that. We're also looking forward to continuing our events this month in honor of the State of Israel. We have a wonderful program on Sunday morning at 9:30. Randy, you want to tell? It's called Camera Shining a Light on the State of Israel and on the Knesset. I have to just say something funny. I think it's funny. My future son-in-law, one set of grandparents, they live in Palm Springs, California. Is that possible? Yeah. So they live in this really warm climate, but they have this. They for Sukkot, they host in their sukkah, shakshuka in the sukkah. So every time I hear shakshuka, I'm thinking about shakshuka in the sukkah. So, but the even more funny thing is that apparently every night of Sukkot they serve shakshuka. Anyhow, So we have wonderful programs coming up. There's a men's club closing dinner taking place on Tuesday night this week. I don't know if it might be getting a little late to RSVP, but we hope some of you will be there for that. You can also participate by Zoom. And lots of things to keep aware of in the weekly email, so please, lots and lots of wonderful things coming up. And there will be a few people here on Shabbat morning next week as well. And we're looking forward to celebrating Rebecca Pomerantz becoming bat mitzvah, and Eliana Glanzberg-Krainin and Ben Kahn having their ufruf on that Shabbat. So that's a week from tomorrow. So come, just be prepared to maybe have a little bit longer, harder time parking on that Shabbat than usual. We're going to have people in the, there's going to be overflow parking in the KI parking lot. So. No, but a crossing guard, Don, to make sure you cross Old York Road safely, since there's no sidewalk between us and KI, as you know. All right, Chazan, you're going to bring us home with, you want to tell us about the Adon Olam melody?
Yes. Before I also just want to add...
oh, no, the Atikva melody. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I also just want to add, this coming Wednesday, we're having a class on Wednesday at 7:30 on the history of Israeli music, from the beginning of it to today. That's on Wednesday, and next Friday's service is going to be Neshama Band Unplugged. Well, not really unplugged, but just acoustic.
Acoustic Neshama.
Yeah.
All right, and we're going to ask people to rise because we're going to conclude the service with, instead of Adon Olam, but with Hatikva. So, and there is actually Hatikva is in this. People, yeah, it's on page 395. If you're not familiar with the words, it's there both in transliteration and in Hebrew. Shalom.
Shalom. Shabbat shalom.
We thank all of our musicians for making such beautiful, beautiful music for us tonight. Shabbat shalom. Shakach. Shakach. Eze yofi.
תודה, תודה.
אני מסכים, פנינה. Iza, wow.
No, we have a sound guy today.
Yeah. Because on the Moshav stuff was really, like,
Yes.
wow.